minutes, right? All right, ready? Oh, wait.
Go ahead.
My opponent, Jonathan, argues that there are approximately 12 million illegal immigrants being significantly affected by the current immigration policies. And as a resolution to such a problem, he proposes that the American government grant them amnesty. Now, I must admit, we do have an immigration problem involving some 12 million illegal immigrants. However, instead of adopting the radical proposition that my opponent has made, I suggest we take some action consisting of minor repairs and reinforcements of our current policies to effectively fix the immigrant problem we have today. If our problem is that we have 12 million illegal immigrants running across the country, then the most obvious course of action would be to deport them. I suggest that we repair our current deportation policy by deputizing police officers to enforce immigration law. As a matter of fact, according to ICE.gov, the ICE has developed the Access Program in response to the widespread interest from local law enforcement agencies who have requested ICE assistance through the 287G program. This program cross-designates local officers to enforce immigration law and authorized through Section 287G of the Immigration and Nationality Act. Now, I'm not suggesting that police officers should focus all of their attention solely on illegal immigrants, but rather, if they happen to encounter one, they should take the most efficient action and turn them in for deportation. On another hand, in 2006, President Bush signed the Secure Fence Act that promised to build 700 miles of two-layered reinforced fencing along the American and Mexican border. However, in an interview by CNN, Representative Ed Royce announced that after 1 year, only 2 miles of the promised fence had been completed. My suggestion is simple: just build the fence. As far as work policy, according to S. Spencer from the Washington Post, between 1999 and 2003, worksite enforcement operations were scaled back 95% by the Immigration and Naturalization Service, which subsequently was merged into the Homeland Security Department. The number of employers prosecuted for unlawfully employing immigrants dropped from 182 in 1999 to 4 in 2003, and fines collected declined from 3.6 million to 212,000, according to federal statistics. You see, policies are already in place. We just need to enforce them even more. By enforcing such laws, not only will it reduce the number of illegal immigrants working without proper documentation, but it will force them to head back home, simultaneously preventing more from coming into the country looking for jobs. The proposed policy is unworkable on account that the conditions outlined are simply inconvenient. The first condition asks that those seeking amnesty must reside in the States longer than 5 years. But according to Robert Rector from Heritage.org, the Department of Homeland Security has no real capacity to separate true affidavits from bogus ones. Consequently, the potential for amnesty based on fraudulent documents is very high. In the 1986 amnesty, an estimated 25% of the amnesties granted were fraudulent. In this round of amnesty, the fraud rate could be as high as or higher than in 1986, resulting in millions of additional amnesties. So, if you take that into consideration, just about anyone can claim to have resided in the States for more than 5 years. Another problem is the naturalization fee. My partner has never stated just how much this fee will cost. Will it be high enough so that weeds out the poorest of immigrants, or low enough so that even the lowest wage immigrants can afford it, and thus allow virtually anyone to obtain U.S. residency? What my partner has yet to consider is that when you're going to argue a policy claim, you have to make sure that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. And in this case, the disadvantages are the ones which carry the most weight. The most obvious disadvantage is that granting amnesty will only give incentive for more immigrants to come into the country illegally. In fact, Stephen Karamoto of CIS.org states that about 2.7 million people received lawful permanent residence or green cards in the late 1980s and early 1990s as a result of the amnesties contained in the Immigration Reform and Control Act, or IRCA, of 1986. But these new INS figures show that by the beginning of 1997, those former illegal aliens had been entirely replaced by new illegal aliens, and that the unauthorized population again stood at more than 5 million, just as before the amnesty. Given that information, one can only imagine the catastrophic effects of another amnesty in America. Another disadvantage of granting amnesty would be that it would cost the government much more money than they are spending now. In an article by Tim Gaynor from Reuters.com, lawmakers in Arizona opposed the legislation argued that granting citizenship to mostly wage immigrants would have a crushing effect on the state. Gaynor also quoted Republican State Representative John Cavanagh, who stated, "They're costing us in Arizona millions a year, and that's when they are getting hardly any benefits." So if State Representative John Cavanagh admits that illegal immigrants are costing billions of dollars in taxpayer money, just imagine when these illegal immigrants are taking in full benefits such as public services, healthcare facilities, and schools. With that said, there is no need whatsoever for an ineffective amnesty policy, but much rather, there is a need for a stronger reinforcement of our current policies.